Welcome to the Explainer. Today we are going to embark on a completely mind-bending journey. We're going to take this really fascinating concept of working backwards from the infinite, and we're going to trace it from the literal physical mechanics of a gym machine all the way down to the absolute foundation of the universe itself. I know, it sounds pretty wild, right? But stick with me, because by the end of our time together, you'll see exactly how physical decompression directly mirrors the primordial state of reality itself. So get ready, because we're going all the way down to the foundational floor of the cosmos. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with Part 1, reversing the 48-degree arc. Then Part 2, the cosmic entropy split. Next, we'll map things out in Part 3, mapping the universal triad, and finally wrap up with Part 4, the causal ocean mechanics. We are transitioning our focus from human physical fitness to the incredible depths of Vedic quantum physics. Let's get started.
Section 1. Reversing the 48-degree arc, the literal mechanics of working backwards. So think of us as detectives today, decoding this highly cryptic phrase, working back from the infinite backwards at 48 degrees. To understand what this actually means on a cosmic scale, we've got to start grounded, right here in physical reality, literally inside a gym. Let's break down the exact biomechanics of a 45-degree back extension machine, which actually is often adjusted to a steeper 48-degree angle. Step 1 is identifying your peak values. Imagine you're at the very top of the exercise. You've hit the apex. Your spine and hips are at exactly 48 degrees relative to the baseline. Your glutes, hamstrings, erector spine, they're all at maximum contraction. Gravitational torque is at its absolute highest peak right here. Then, to work backwards, Step 2 shows we reverse that angular acceleration. Step 3 is calculating that angle reduction. And finally, Step 4, well, that's where the magic happens. Decompressing the spine. You're moving from a state of absolute peak tension and maximum gravitational load straight into a passive zero-load state.
Let's really focus on the specific negative 48-degree displacement for a second. To return to that neutral starting stretch position, you don't just collapse, right? You use a highly controlled eccentric contraction. You are actively resisting gravity to control your descent, rotating backwards through this entire negative 48-degree arc until your hips are perfectly back in a neutral straight-line alignment. You're literally working backwards to get back to zero.
And here is where we make our micro to macro pivot. On the left, we've got that physical decompression we just achieved in the gym, a 0-degree neutral hang where gravitational load completely drops to zero, allowing the spine to separate and decompress in passive traction. Now, look on the right. We have the ultimate zero state, the quantum vacuum. This is the underlying quantum field of our universe, a state of raw, entirely unshaped potential. The physical decompression of your human spine is actually a perfect, localized metaphor for the foundational floor of reality itself. Because, to get to the foundation, you absolutely have to release the load.
Section 2. The cosmic entropy split. Zooming out to the scale of the universe.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we can apply that exact same logic to the cosmos. The universe itself, in a strictly thermodynamic sense, works backwards from peak-ordered structures all the way down to a baseline. Just follow the energy flow here from left to right. On the far left, we have the sun, our low-entropy source. It acts as this highly organized, totally predictable thermodynamic engine, exporting ordered light and heat, which, of course, is what drives life and chemistry. But as we move across, we see information tearing. That ordered structure is being pulled toward the right, straight into a black hole, the maximum entropy sink. The universe is literally taking highly organized data, swallowing it whole and tearing apart its internal structures, which maximizes hidden uncertainty. We are moving from structure back toward a chaotic, unshaped state.
Section 3. Mapping the universal triad, where physics, philosophy, and information theory meet.
Now, this cosmic split isn't just a random event. It's a foundational pattern of reality. We're going to look at the concept of triangulation here, showing how this journey, from source to sink to resolution, applies equally across three completely different, incredibly massive disciplines. If we scan down at first pillar, the source column, we can map these overlaps perfectly. In cosmology, it's the sun. In ancient Vedic philosophy, it's sattva, which represents purity, light, and order. And in information theory, it's the parent node state. All three of these represent the peak-ordered structure. It's the highest point of tension, exactly like being at the top of that 48-degree arc on the gym machine. Then, moving to pillar 2, we see the black hole, Thomas, and weighted child entropy. These are our sinks, the complete dissolution of that order.
Finally, Pillar 3 represents the ultimate resolution, which brings us to our next absolutely crucial concept.
But wait, before we look at that resolution, we really need to define the absolute floor of reality: quantum foam. This is a subatomic phenomenon where a vacuum is never ever truly empty. Instead, it literally boils with energy as virtual particles constantly pop into and out of existence. Remember that 0-degree neutral hang? That sweet spinal decompression? Well, the quantum foam is the cosmic version of that zero state. It is the underlying raw potential from which all those ordered structures in our first pillar eventually bubble up.
We can actually visually map out the universal triad we just discussed, which really emphasizes this incredible rule of 3. You can clearly see how energy moves from the low entropy source of the sun on the left right over to the maximum entropy sink of the black hole on the right. And what's truly fascinating is how physics quantifies this whole right side. According to the Bekenstein-Hawking formula, a black hole's entropy is proportional to its event horizon surface area. It's a nearly perfect information sink, capturing all that ordered complexity and essentially trapping it. But it doesn't stay trapped forever.
Which brings us perfectly to Hawking radiation. This is the incredibly slow quantum leak of thermal energy seeping back out of a black hole. Now, why does this matter to us? Because this right here is the ultimate resolution. This is the cosmic equivalent of physical decompression. All that trapped, torn apart information inside the black hole is scrambled and slowly exported back out into the empty universe over literally trillions of years. It completely recycles everything back to the bottom of reality, right back into that boiling quantum foam we just talked about.
Now, what's really interesting about this next visualization is how the top section layers the quantum mechanics of observation right over our triad. Concepts like wave function collapse suggest that human consciousness actually bridges these pillars. Think about it. When a wave function collapses, a distributed probability wave snaps back into a single, localized physical point. That means our very active observation actively participates in this thermodynamic cycle of creating order from the foam, sending it toward entropy, and recycling it all over again. We aren't just sitting back watching the universe decompress. We're fundamentally part of its mechanics.
Section 4. The causal ocean mechanics, the primordial substrate of reality.
All right, let's tie all of this cutting-edge modern physics back to some incredibly ancient wisdom. The Vedic texts describe the material multiverse as being born from a primordial fluid called the causal ocean, or Karanodaka, which is said to sit at the very bottom of the universe. Let's just walk through this complete sequence, pulling together everything we've learned so far. First, the quantum vacuum is that foundational floor, the causal ocean. Second, this space boils with energy as quantum foam. Third, from this foam, ordered systems literally bubble up into existence. These are our suns, our low entropy states, the sattva. Fourth, as time marches on, these structures are swallowed by maximum entropy sinks, our black holes, the state of Thomas. And finally, the fundamental code of reality evaporates slowly back into the background vacuum through Hawking radiation. Basically, information has to bubble up from a raw, unshaped potential before organizing into things like biological life, and eventually, the whole shebang decompresses right back to zero.
Just listen to this quote from the Vedic texts because it perfectly anchors the science we've been talking about. As Mahavishnu breathes out, innumerable universes emerge from the pores of his skin like soap bubbles. As he breathes in, those universal bubbles contract and dissolve back into him. I mean, wow, it is just a stunningly beautiful metaphor. The breath cycle of Mahavishnu flawlessly matches the literal thermodynamic cycle of the cosmos we just outlined, from the quantum vacuum bubbling up to the black holes swallowing it all back down. So we've traveled from the specific, active tension of a 48-degree arc on a gym machine, all the way down to the passive, completely decompressed foundational floor of the entire universe. We've seen exactly how physics, information theory, and ancient philosophy all describe the exact same cycle of order, dissolution, and recycling, which leaves us with one final, absolutely massive question to consider. If the universe is constantly breathing out ordered systems and swallowing them back into the vacuum, at what stage of the breath are we right now? Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.